Did they make
No,
contact?
no. It's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Right
Look at
there,
this.
moves
Wow.
him to win it. Carl Edwards bump and dump and run.
The bump and run.
There it is.
Gordon underneath to the lead. 2 laps to go.
Didn't mean to really turn around, meant to rally his cage up.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael DY, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Stat Man Reilly and Erik Daytona Ron. Fellas, how you doing? Hope you had a great weekend. Who won in football this weekend? That was a good win. Tom Brady. Did Tom Brady win?
That's always a good win.
Did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win? I hope you guys had a Notre Dame weekend. Hope you guys had a Tom Brady weekend. I'm assuming, hope you didn't have a Jaguars weekend, Erik. How'd they do? Yeah, that's what I thought. But but if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Podcast available now in the off season every other Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, and more. And every Tuesday morning on YouTube. Matt, what were you going to say there?
The Buccaneers, we are recording on Monday night. The Buccaneers play tonight at 8:15.
Okay, well, I hope you had a Tom Brady type of Tuesday morning or something, you know?
Unless they lose, then all of this is null and void. Now I hope they lose.
Who are they playing tonight?
The Giants. They're an 11.5 point favorite. They'll probably win.
All right, I hope you guys had a Tom Brady type of Monday night. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. It's the off season. Not a whole lot to talk about because we don't have a race to talk about. I figured we'd go over the season as a whole, do a race grade for the season, our checkers and wreckers for the season. And then I thought it'd be fun to individually grade every team. We'll get to that. But first, we took last week off and we missed a whole ton of NASCAR news. Do you guys want to jump into the NASCAR news?
Let's dive right into it.
So I was actually surprised during doing show prep at how much news happened in the last 2 weeks. It's insane. I don't know about you guys. Last week I was really looking forward to taking the night off. Not that it's a grind to do this podcast every week, but we did 39 shows in a row, and I was just a little burnt out. So I'm like, yeah, looking forward to a nice Monday night to myself, hang out with my girlfriend, not have to worry about NASCAR. But last Monday rolled around and I was like sitting around like, man, I kind of want to be talking about NASCAR right now. You know,
I sat here for an hour and a half and I just spit out hot NASCAR takes to my wall for an hour and a half.
Just yelling into the void.
Missed it. Yeah. Chase Elliott. Crying.
How about you, Erik? How have you been the last week or two?
You know, I felt the same, boys. I had that same exact feeling, you know. You just get into that rhythm of that routine of every week. This is what you do. And, you know, when Monday rolled around, I'm like, oh, like, just like you, Waddy. No, you know, I could do, you know, whatever I want this weekend, you know, coming into Monday. And it's like, damn, like, I do look forward to this because, you know, before we record, you know, we usually have a little banter too, which I look forward to every week before we do the show. And
a little venting session.
Didn't have that little venting session beforehand either. So, you know, glad to be back recording.
I tell you what, yesterday without a race and last week without a race, it just felt real weird. Sundays don't feel like Sundays anymore because I'm not a football guy like you guys are. You at least have football to fall back on and you get your sports routine on a Sunday leading into Monday. Yesterday for me, it just felt like, I don't know, felt like, oh, it's just like a Saturday type day. Like, I don't know. I wasn't prepared for the Sunday scaries and work on Monday like I normally am, where I can like kind of ease into it with the race. Just kind of, I don't know. It was weird.
I actually go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know. I just like, I don't like it, but at the same time, I am relieved that there's no NASCAR going on right now because I was a little burnt out on it. But like, I don't know. I caught myself watching an old Xfinity Series race at work the other day. So
oh, no.
Yeah.
I like, just to kind of touch on.
Spoiler alert: Tyler Reddick won the 2019 NASCAR Xfinity Series championship.
Of course, you watched the race that Reddick won.
He tamed the beast.
Me about it.
He
texted me about it too.
Well, you want to know what? Can I tell you guys why I chose that race in particular? So last Monday, which we took off, was me and my girlfriend's 2-year anniversary, right?
Hey, happy anniversary.
There you go.
The next day was the happiest day of my life. I'm just joking. Because that was the day that Tyler Reddick won the championship. But we were all at our friend Mike Gallagher's wedding. So we didn't get to see that whole race. I saw like bits and pieces. And I was like, you want to what? It's coming up on the 2-year anniversary of that championship race. I didn't see the whole thing. Let me watch it at work. In between doing my work and stuff, I was watching it on my phone. And it was a great race. At one point, I thought Cole Custer could have won the championship. He won the race off pit road. It was awesome.
Unbelievable.
Christopher Bell threw it down the drain.
Go ahead. He sent me a picture of it too, the son of a bitch.
So there was a point in this 2019 Xfinity Series championship race where Christopher Bell was on a different pit strategy than everyone else. He was on a different tire strategy. And he was going to pit early during a green flag stop to hopefully gain like a big, nice gap in between Tyler Reddick and Cole Custer. Justin Allgaier was also racing for the championship, but he was a little further back. He wasn't doing as well as Cole and Tyler were. They were in second and third places. Christopher Bell was in first. So he wanted to pit, gain a quick lead. He missed the entry to pit road, completely screwed it up, did make the off-sequence pit stop, and did get out there, and there was a nice gap.
You couldn't wait. You know what? It was due. I do my fair share of Reddick busted on you. It was only a matter of time. You couldn't wait.
I couldn't.
You couldn't wait to bust me about that.
I couldn't, because you want to know what? For the listener at home, me and Eric, that whole 2019 Xfinity Series season, we were going back and forth in text messages, busting each other. And because we were all at that wedding, I never saw that Christopher Bell move. Did you guys even know that happened?
No, I didn't.
No, because I had it on my phone, but every once in a while you could only have to undo the screen unlock. So you see what's going on. Oh shit, quick, lock it out.
Yeah.
I'm not watching the race. What are you talking about?
Like, no,
So
we got to watch the couple walk down the aisle for their first dance and stuff. You can't be checking it,
I was in that wedding, so I had no shot of checking in on the wedding or on the race.
So you guys laugh because I went back and I watched an old Tyler Reddick win. But I'm telling you,
all to just bust my balls.
I'm telling you though, if you're bored in the off season like we are right now, if you're listening at home and you want a good race to watch, go watch that 2019 Homestead race. It's like a 3-hour long race. It's a little under 3 hours. It was a great race. It was fantastic. I highly recommend it.
That's great. And now NASCAR news brought to you by
Polar. Eric.
Polar.
Eric, what kind of flavor Polar are you drinking this week?
Raspberry lime.
Raspberries.
You might call me a little crazy, and I don't care because anything that Polar puts out is delicious. I went with lemon. Never tried it before. It seems like a basic flavor. It is fantastic. Nice, crisp, and refreshing.
I tell you what, at work, I have a little mini fridge full of lime Polars. So, Matt, I completely agree on the basic flavors. I like the lime ones because it kind of reminds me of a gin and tonic. And I might have a problem. Speaking of problems, to the NASCAR news, DC Solar Jeffrey Karpoff sentenced to 30 years in prison. Now, if you guys don't remember DC Solar, they sponsored Chip Ganassi Racing in the Cup Series with Kyle Larson and Ross Chastain in the Xfinity Series a couple years back. Apparently, they're running a bit of a Ponzi scheme. Prosecutors say the scam may be the largest in the history of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento, one that bilked investors out of nearly $1 billion and generated a lavish lifestyle for its perpetrators that included more than 150 exotic cars, antique vehicles, vacation villas from Lake Tahoe to the Caribbean, and even ownership of a minor league baseball team. And some of that dirty money apparently went to NASCAR. I don't think Chip Ganassi ever got paid for those races, though. And he got burned in this all, too. Of course, Ross Chastain ended up losing out on his Xfinity Series ride. That's when he moved, bounced around to Spire and stuff, and eventually ended up at, I believe, Nice Motorsports, running for the Truck Series, running for a Truck Series championship after that whole ordeal. Of course, Kyle Larson was out of a sponsor. They made it up with like Target and all those other sponsors that were on the 42 at the time. But yeah, he's going to jail for a long, long time. So just an update on an old NASCAR story there. A kind of current story coming out of Phoenix. Carl Long, David Starr, and other MBM Motorsports team members contracted COVID-19. That happened 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard an update from them since, but I'm assuming they're on the mend. If you're looking to, maybe you're tired of drinking polars and you want to switch to something more fruity and alcoholic, why don't you try some fermented grapes? Manos Wine to produce a limited edition NASCAR wine. You could check those out at manoswine.com. Do you think that's where that one was going?
Hey, listen, anything with alcohol, it immediately sparked our attention. So,
oh yeah,
check it out.
Let's see. Next piece of NASCAR news. Jimmie Johnson apparently has been getting a lot of NASCAR offers, not only for part-time, but full-time. He hasn't committed to any of that. He's unsure what his schedule. That was part of the reason why Jimmie wanted to step away. He says that he thinks the NASCAR schedule is a little too long, that it could probably benefit from being cut by 4 to 6 to 8 races.
He's been saying that for years. Jimmie's been a big advocate of shortening it up.
Yeah, and you hear that with a lot of older veteran drivers because, you know, they have their families, their young families, their kids are growing up and stuff. NASCAR schedule, 36 races. It's 36, right? Not 38. Yeah, 36 races. That's a grueling schedule. And you look at IndyCar, I think they have like a 14 race season, something like that.
It's like, something it's in the teens for sure.
Yeah. I know it was being questioned whether Jimmie Johnson will run the Indy 500 or not. He will. It's been all figured out, and he's going to be running it for Chip Ganassi Racing on the Indy side. So that should be exciting to see what old Jimmie could do down at the Indy Oval. Let's see. 2 drivers going to be going back to their roots a little bit. Erik Jones, our boy Daytona Ron's driver, and Ryan Preece are entered into this year's Snowball Derby. Now, if you're not familiar with the Snowball Derby, it's a late model race that happens around this time of year. Erik Jones, actually a 2-time champion of the race, and that's where Kyle Busch saw Jones's talent on display. Of course, he beat Kyle Busch. Kyle said, "Hey, why don't you drive a truck for me?" So interesting to see Erik Jones and Ryan Preece.
And thanks to Chase Elliott, he's a 2-time winner because Chase Elliott actually got disqualified. He dominated that race.
Oh yeah.
And Jones, I think, became the first back-to-back winner because of that. So since Elliott's car got DQ'd, Erik Jones was then named the champion. So
he made up for it. Chase made up for it. He's also won other snowball derbies.
So you're telling me that Chase Elliott brought a cheated up car to a race? Oh my God. I'm sorry, man. I had to. But no, it should be interesting to see those guys. We're seeing a lot of NASCAR drivers kind of take that Kyle Larson approach to the offseason, get as much racing as they can in. And I think more seat time, no matter what type it is good for business and good for NASCAR. Speaking of,
Chase was in a car last week, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I know he's getting into a bunch of different stuff this offseason. Ever since Mr. H gave him the green light, I think all of them are out doing their thing this offseason.
Yeah, speaking of drivers getting to dirt, Kyle Busch finished 4th in the Nitro Rallycross debut. He's supposed to race a couple more races. That's Travis Pastrana's racing series, which did you guys see like any clips or anything like that? It's pretty cool.
It is. It's cool. Yep.
They bang off one another. They kind of like they're all good race car drivers, you know.
Yeah.
All in their each field where they come from, but they all know how to kind of race with a beat and a banging style without completely taking somebody out. You know,
yeah.
which makes it made it really, really fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun to watch. You know what it reminds me of is Robbie Gordon's Super Truck series.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those things are really cool. They're very entertaining for the fans. If you haven't checked it out, you can see the highlights, and I think you might even be able to see some full races on YouTube. Speaking of Kyle Busch, though, got to give a big congratulations to Kyle and Samantha Busch. They announced last week that they are expecting a second child in May. And, of course, there's been no secret they've struggled to conceive a child for a long, long time. The couple will have a daughter via a surrogate mother. So however it takes, old Rowdy Bush add into the flock. I know his son's been doing some racing himself. They have some cool merch and even some cool toy cars like diecast and everything. So we'll see if his future daughter goes down the racing path.
Yeah, very cool. Congrats to them.
Let's see. Daytona 500 news. We got Noah Gragson is going to attempt to qualify for the Daytona 500 with Beard Motorsports. This is the second year he's going to try. Of course, Brendan Gaughan used to drive that Beard Motorsports 62 for South Point. Last year, he didn't make it in. Last year, he was collected in a wreck in the duels for the qualifying race. So we'll see if Noah Gragson could get it done in 2022 and make the big show, make his Cup Series debut. Let's see. Jerome Donnelly joins GMS Racing to lead Ty Dillon and the number 94 team in 2022. Of course, GMS Racing moving up from trucks to Cup to field a car for Ty Dillon. And that should be pretty interesting there. We'll see how they do as a new team and with a new car too. Joey Gase also starting his own team, joining Joey Gase Racing in the Xfinity Series.
That was
another GTR.
That was a dirty announcement.
Yeah. I know you guys. What was it, Matt? I think you sent us the DM on Twitter or whatever.
I forget, but it got me good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So for anyone who doesn't know, when Joey Gase announced that he was starting his own team, what was the headline? Joey Gase to run for JGR
in
the
Xfinity series. Yeah.
So which would obviously be a huge story, especially for Joey Gase, but it's JGR, Joey Gase Racing.
Oh, you want to know what? That reminded me of a news story that I didn't put down on the rundown. JGR, the real JGR, Joe Gibbs Racing, is only going to field 3 cars next year. So they are they're not going to be running that 4th all-star car like they have in years previous. I forget what the lineup is that's moving over there. I think with Daniel Hemrick departing, Ty Gibbs moving in, they're just going to get rid of
Ty
one
Gibbs,
of the
Brandon
cars.
Jones, and
well, it was Harrison Burton in the 20.
Yeah, so then that 3rd car becomes the all-star car there for them, for Kyle Busch to come down, run some races, Denny come and run some races. So we'll cover all that in a couple weeks right before Daytona. We'll give you all the big major silly season moves, where people went in our Daytona 500 preview. Let's see. Haley Deegan expected to return to David Gilligan Racing for trucks in 2022. Anthony Alfredo will not return to Front Row in 2022. No word on his replacement yet or where Fast Pasta will go. This is a big story we've been following for a couple weeks now. Starcom Racing was originally selling their charter to Spire. Apparently that deal fell through. They will sell their charter to 2311 Racing after their deal with Front Row fell through a couple months ago. And so yeah, looks like 2311 has secured a charter. It's coming from Starcom. So no issues with Kurt Busch moving on to that second 2311 car. Let's see. Big piece of news last week. Roush Fenway Racing officially changed its name to Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, or RFK. What'd you guys think about that? What'd you think about the logo and the new paint scheme and all that stuff?
I like it.
Absolute fire. Absolute fire. I thought the color combo, the chrome number, they're bringing that back. I know I saw, Suarez is running that in the 99, got the chrome number.
Yeah.
And I sent the screenshot to you guys thinking, I'm like, oh, this is going to be awesome to see these chrome numbers coming back. It looked really well. And to touch on it just a little bit, like the new car and the new everything, I texted you guys earlier in the week and I'm like, you know what? Already it's been a month or so since we kind of had a decent look of what this new next gen car is going to be like, and you could nitpick what's different or what I'm not going to like. I already just see it as the new next car. It's already grown on for the most part, and I'm excited to see it out on the racetrack.
Yeah, I'm totally used to the number move already. I think the teams are doing a good job with the designs, and we'll just see better and better designs as the graphic designers get going And yeah, as I was watching those Charlotte tests, I was like, man, I'm already used to it. And those Camaros look beautiful. Like they really do look like showroom floor Camaros.
Yeah,
So,
I think all the OEMs did a really good job with their cars. I'm excited. I'm already. I mean, I know we got to get through the holidays and everything, and I'm not officially like ready for the next season yet. But I mean, it'll be here before we know it. So what's the countdown? What's Larry Mack's countdown?
At tonight, November 22nd, it makes 90 days to the Daytona 500.
There you go.
And we have the Clash 2 weeks before that. So we're even closer than we realized. Tons of it. I mean, the next season NASCAR is going to be here before you even realize. I can't wait. Speaking of that next gen testing though, I don't know if you guys watched much of it on the Charlotte Oval this past week, but of course, Austin Dillon wrecked really early on. They had his car rebuilt in less than 12 hours. I thought that was really impressive. He wrecked it at like, I think 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was already back on track by 7 o'clock that night. So just goes to show you how quickly they could rebuild these next gen cars. Kind of makes it interesting when it comes to next season. We might not even need backup cars. If someone wrecks in practice or whatever, it should be interesting. I wonder what they'll do with the crash clock too. The 6-minute crash clock and everything. I kind of miss the days where you would see a car come out like 50 laps down, all taped up and repaired. Like I'm just picturing like Dale Jr.'s car with the big 88 kind of spray painted on the side.
Nope. Get off the racetrack, son. They ruined so many races that I flipped out on my TV screen so many times for those kind of cars to get out of the way, because they cause. You know how many cautions they cause that you're like, oh my God,
there's just parts falling from them.
Yeah.
I understand that. I don't know. I think it adds something. I think it's cool.
But if that rule is in place, Kenseth never takes out Logano at Martinsville if that rule is in place.
See, so, there you go. Get rid of that crash clock.
Produced one of the best moments in NASCAR history.
Let's see. Speaking of next gen testing, though, a lot of fans were concerned about slower lap times. Just to put any listeners' minds at bay or whatever, pretty much every crew chief in the garage said, we're not looking for fast lap times at this point. We are just here to collect data, figure out how the shakedown of the car, how the driver feels the car and everything, and make minor adjustments to figure out how they could adjust the car to make the driver more comfortable driving it. So I wouldn't worry or put too much stock into lap times in testing at this point. And I just heard Larry Mack say it on Sirius XM radio this morning. One thing we were really worried about, we kept hearing during the next gen that the steering radius wasn't enough. Dale Jr. on the download actually talked about how he had to kind of maneuver a little bit more than you would in the garage area, in the pits area. Larry Mack said today, apparently that issue's been fixed. They figured something out after Phoenix, and no one complained about it during Charlotte. So I think we're moving in the right direction with the next gen car. So just putting some minds at ease there. Let's see. Next piece of news, practice and qualifying will return with a knockout style format in 2022 for the majority of NASCAR Cup Series scheduled races. What'd you guys think about this? Apparently they're going to split the field up into two groups with a 15-minute practice session and then group qualifying. How do you guys feel about the small amount of practice that we're getting?
It's gimmicky.
Yeah, I agree. How about you, Eric?
I don't like it.
It seems kind of pointless to me. Like 15 minutes, to me, this just seems like they're doing it because they know they can make money on it by running a practice and having a sponsor for the practice. And it just seems to me like a money TV thing. Like, I don't really know what the teams are going to get out of that limited amount of time. Like, how do you even get tire wear assessment?
That's what I was thinking.
How do you even go out, make a run, bring the car back in, make an adjustment, and get another run in that amount of time?
You can't.
I don't know.
So Jeff Gluck, I know I sent this over to you guys. He nailed it on Twitter at Jeff_Gluck. He said, the answer to all your questions about NASCAR is TV.
Yep.
That's always the answer. Remind yourself of this to save time scratching your heads in the future. The answer is TV.
And you want to know what?
There it is.
I'll applaud Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR. He admitted it. He goes, the TV partners wanted something in a 2-hour window, and they kind of led it on this one. So it makes sense. Like, they want a program, they want a block of programming for 2 hours. I'm excited that we are getting to see a little bit of practice. I'm really glad qualifying is coming back. They said with the limited practice time, you'll probably be able to make a couple laps, come in and make an adjustment that you would during a pit stop.
You know what though? Like, but then if you're NASCAR, I don't want to get in the weeds with this, but I've already started. So if you're NASCAR, all right, let's placate to Fox and to NBC. That's where the money's coming in. So you kind of have to. You're in partnership with them.
Yeah.
Let's run your 2-hour window. But why screw out these teams, especially with the brand new car on all these different tracks? I mean, we're shaking up the schedule and everything. We've got all these different tracks that this car has never run on. How about at the end of that 2 hours, then it goes to, behind a paywall of an NBC
put it on Track
Gold
Pass
membership or something. Yeah. So we're not screwing these guys and these teams out of valuable time in a new car with practice. I mean, I'm spitballing here, and I'm sure there's some sort of logistical answer to that, but I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that the answer is always going to be TV and TV money, but it is what it is, I guess.
But not every practice is even televised anyway. So
I
get exactly what you're saying, Matt. Like, not all practice is televised. So, okay, have some televised, give your, TV partnerships their cut of their 2 hours of this. But like, once you cut the 2 hours, once that program is over, why do you have to stop the teams from practicing? You know what I mean? Just because the team, that doesn't make sense, you know?
And the thing that bothers me the most too, with the 15-minute practice, I wouldn't mind it so much if we were using this generation of car, because at this point we have tons and tons of data on the car where you can simulate a setup, come to the racetrack, and you're pretty close to where you need to be, and you could make those pit road adjustments and get to where you need to be for either a long run car, short run car, what have you. But with a brand new car, I just feel like you're doing a big disservice, not only to the teams and the drivers, but the fan too. Like, these guys don't have a notebook to go off of. They're going off of how many tests we have in the off season. I think there's like 7 or so, and then you're expecting them to nail a setup through simulation. I don't know. I feel like it's going to blow up in their face. Even with the group qualifying, I think it's going to blow up in their face. Like in 2019, we were doing group qualifying and it got to the point where drivers weren't leaving pit road until the very last second, to the point where I think I forget what race it was, but there was a huge amount of people. Nobody qualified. No one got to the green flag in time.
Yep.
Yeah. And then the next week, like, all right, we're back to single car qualifying again. So I feel like something like that's gonna eventually happen,
My thing is, I think you're right, Whitey. They're basing these off of what happened this year. So, okay, without the practice and qualifying this year, that's the whole reason for these competition cautions at the start of every one of these races.
Yeah.
That's basically simulating, okay, you come off your hauler, we'll run however many laps, usually 25, 30 laps. We'll throw a caution, come down, make that adjustment. Like, those first 20 laps of every race this year is essentially NASCAR giving the teams a practice session and say, come down pit road, make an adjustment. But like you said, with this new car, it's not going to work the same way. They're not going to come off the hauler like they did this past year and like get dialed in from one pit stop. I don't think that's going to happen like it did this past year.
I mean, I guess we'll see what happens in this season. Maybe it'll make it more exciting, where some teams will be like way off one week and then nail it the next.
Well, I thought about that too. This could be one of those gray areas where, like I said in the text, like, okay, if you all have to use the one set of tires throughout that whole thing, I don't give a shit. I didn't practice qualify last year, whatever. If we start the race on these tires, I'm going to sit here.
Yeah.
Are they going to force these teams to practice
That's
and
true,
to
yeah.
make the qualifying lap? Because that's what I want to know.
Sit on them and have fresh tires for the start of the race.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I would do jack shit. I'd go out there on fresh tires.
And you know what?
These teams will force their hand if it's a system that's broken, like we might think it is, and we could be completely wrong. Maybe
this is something they want. I don't know.
Right. We could be completely wrong, but if we're going in the route of let's just say we're right, and this is going to blow up in their faces, these NASCAR teams will correct. Like they'll make it correct by doing stuff like that, Eric, just sitting in there and not, here, you might have, NBC might be paying you for a product of a 2-hour block of practice, but you're not going to be able to show anything because we're all sitting in the garage.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you want to know what? I'm sure there's crew chiefs already thinking how they can manipulate the system to get the best result for them.
They're already 10 steps ahead of us.
For sure. And you want to know what though? As long as they don't mess with Daytona qualifying with the duels and all that stuff, I don't care what they do. We'll see what happens in 2022. Maybe.
I love the duels so much. I think the duels are my favorite 2 races of the year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So much fun. And so much anxiety too, because you're thinking like, oh man, if a wreck happens right now, then they have to go to a backup car. You have to try to fix it in like 2 days. Like my guy could be screwed and start at the back of the pack, like all sorts of stuff. I love it.
All right. Never mind. I'm excited now. I'm not waiting until January to get excited. We started talking about the duels and I'm back, baby.
Okay. All right, let's pump the brakes though before we get to Daytona. We got to talk about Speedway Motorsports acquiring Dover Motorsports. That was a big move last week. Something I wasn't expecting. But yeah, SMI buying up Dover and Nashville. A lot of people a little nervous what's going to happen with Dover, whether that race will go over to the Nashville Fairgrounds, or will they take the Nashville Speedway race away and give it to the Nashville Fairgrounds? Not exactly sure what's going to happen. Making me a little nervous as a fan in the Northeast. We hate to see races lost in the Northeast, but we will see what happens with that acquisition. Side note, as a joke, like, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, I bought 1 share of Dover Motorsports stock because it is a publicly traded company. I wish I bought 1,000. Because they agreed to buy it $1 over what the share price was. I would have made $1,000 real easy. But well, it is what it is. It was like $2 stock. I bought it to have as a joke. Let's see. Oh, NASCAR story I really don't want to talk about today. SMI putting some money into Charlotte, Rockingham, in North Wilkesboro. We talked about it earlier on in the year. There was some government money proposals to go to the tourist tourism guide of North Carolina, and the governor gave some money to North Wilkesboro County.
If you listen to that episode, it was one of our more heated debates too.
It was, because I've been saying for forever, we're not going back to North Wilkesboro. It's not going to happen. Get it out of your heads. And apparently they're getting, $18 million. They're coordinating with local governments to figure out what they're going to do with it. I know an announcement was already made for a Rockingham Speedway, where the vice president of operations is going to take that $9 million and is planning to repave the track and add lights. He says the goal is to make the track more attractive to series like ARCA, SRX, and NASCAR. So I'm wondering if Rockingham will get an SRX race, maybe if they could rehab North Wilkesboro to, that place is in shambles. I don't even know why they're throwing money at it, but
I want to see them. We talked about this at nauseum, and we don't have to dive into it, but I want to see one of these tracks become the premier NASCAR dirt track. So we're not doing these gimmicks at Bristol or anywhere else. We have a premier dirt track that is built specifically for the NASCAR series, and I'm sure whatever other series want to race there throughout the year too. But it's designed for a stock car to run on dirt, and I think they could do it, but it doesn't look like they're going that route. So
no,
that stinks.
At least not Rockingham. Rockingham is in pretty decent shape. They do like car clubs and stuff, come there and do testing days. In fact, Mike Harmon just got busted for testing his Xfinity Series car a couple days ago. I think he got docked 10 owners points and something for the Xfinity Series. I didn't even put that in the NASCAR news, but yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with North Wilkesboro Speedway, and we'll see if they get a Camping World store down there. I guess Marcus Lemonis is supposed to donate $1 million and build a store down there if they could get a NASCAR race going. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll keep you updated. That might be one of
just have to show up. Fans just have to show up now.
Yep.
Moody would bitch about that on Sirius all the time. People, I want this track back, this. And only thing he would ever say is, you're going to show up.
If you want
you
it, show up.
Show up. So that's all I have to say on that is, hey, the fans, you guys wanted it. You're crying, you're bitching. Hey, show up.
Yep.
Not just for 1 year, too. Keep it going year over year over year.
No, if anything, look at Gateway and their deal. They've had just a truck race for years and years. The fans show up, and they're getting a cup race next year. So that's what it is. Butts and seats keeps the track alive. But that is it for NASCAR news this week. Man, whole lot of news stories. Oh man, I don't even know where to start. You guys want to jump into the season grade? Kind of lost my momentum there. We had so much news. I think next podcast I'm gonna do a little bit better skimming some of the lesser important news segments.
We did have a lot of news, though. We took 2 weeks off, and that was the big off-season news dump. I think going forward, I don't think we'll see as much, especially around the holidays. It does slow down a little bit. So we'll make way for other segments that we want to do. But we got it out of the way. Now it's time to grade the season.
Yeah, let's pick up where we left off last episode. Last episode was, of course, the episode after the championship race. Kyle Larson, your champion, dominating 10 races on the season. And now I figured we'd take a look at the season as a whole and give it a grade. Matt, let's start with you.
I gave it an A, not an A plus, an A. An A plus I don't think exists as far as the season grade as a whole. I don't know what would have to happen in order for me to give it an A plus, but it was good. I mean, it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed it this year. I know there's people that bitch and complain about how the racing stinks and all that. I personally disagree with that notion. In my personal opinion, we had a new schedule, which kept the season from getting stale. It sounds like that's going to be the MO from NASCAR going forward, is that they're going to keep moving that schedule around to keep it from getting stale. I love that move on their part. I thought the racing was great. I look back at my race grades throughout the year. I only gave out 3 Ds. I didn't even give out an F. I think I gave out 1 incomplete for New Hampshire because I was salty
You
about
were
how
so mad after New Hampshire.
I was. I've calmed down since then, but I think I gave out 1 incomplete for New Hampshire. But other than that, I didn't give out any Fs and only 3 Ds. And out of 36 races, that's pretty good. So I enjoyed it. And it, next year is going to be a complete wild card. I can't wait for it, but we are talking about this previous season. So I gave it an A. I really couldn't find much to really complain about.
Yeah, I agree. I also gave it an A. Earlier on in the season, Fox was touting it as it's going to be the best season of NASCAR ever. And I don't know if that's 100% true, but for me, it definitely was a great season. I thought it was definitely like a 9.5 out of 10. How about you, Eric? What did you think of the season as a whole, looking back on it?
I have to agree with everything that you two just said. I gave it an A. It was touted, like you said, as like, hey, this is going to be the best season ever. And I remember multiple times backing that up to start the show. Like, oh my God, this very well may be. And like, I was waiting for a point of the season where I was going to say, they got it wrong. This isn't. And every week I just kept saying, hey, this could possibly be. And here we are at the end. And I will say that I was a little bit more involved this year than years in the past. But since I've been watching it, it very well was one of the most entertaining that I have watched in recent years. And it kind of checked a lot of boxes for me as far as regular season champion, Kyle Larson, who dominated. He ends up winning the championship. So that kind of like shuts up people that are like, oh, this chase is a gimmick, blah, blah, the real winner never wins.
Yeah.
And, those people, nope, see you later, and it kind of like, to me, Erik Jones, being an Erik Jones fan, he ran better than I thought he was. So that was a plus. I was kind of going into that very you know what I mean? Like, what's this year going to be for me as a NASCAR fan? And, he surprised me. So I think overall, it had way more good than bad. And I think the fans mostly focus on the bad. And I'm like, okay, Matt, you nailed it. Only a couple races were duds. And like for 36 races to only have a few be a dud, I look at that as a whole and be like, you know what? This season was amazing. You're going to have a dud here and there. And, as a whole, I still think of it as one of the greatest seasons that I've watched in recent years.
You know what's wild? I was just thinking about it, listening to you guys talk. Kyle Larson won 10 races this season, right?
Yeah,
I know.
And
That's
but and we still had 14 different winners. That just goes to show you the parity of this NASCAR season, where there was a point where like the storyline was, will we have 16 or more different winners? Like, what do we do if we have 17 winners? The cutoff race at Daytona was for 2 spots. Like that's absolutely insane. And then you still had the dominance and you still had all these different winners. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. But something I did, because I was like, okay, well, we're looking at the season as a whole. Now I wonder what would happen if I took all of our race grades and then averaged them together, right? And I tell you what, I have some pretty cool numbers. Matt, you gave the most A+ races. I think you had 5 A+.
Okay.
I think I had 2 and Eric had 2. And we all gave Daytona an A+, the Daytona cutoff race. And you guys gave Pocono A+. I just gave it an A. I kind of felt like we were a little biased there because we were there, but they were phenomenal races. Yeah,
both races were phenomenal this year. You had
Larson
the blow
tire. Come on.
Yeah, no.
Turn the last lap. What are you talking about? Like, if you didn't like that race as a NASCAR fan, go watch F1 or something.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
But so I did the numbers. I averaged all the grades. And what do you guys think our average grades were? We all gave the season an A, but what do you think like the actual number grade would have been if you took all the races, all the duds, Matt's incomplete? Yeah. What do you think it was? Not a number grade, but like a letter grade.
I would probably say
B-.
Yeah, somewhere like in the B range. Yeah.
So you guys both averaged a B. I averaged a B+. I just thought that was pretty interesting. Like even just looking back on it, like, oh, obviously this is an A
that's
season.
A good season. That's an above. That's an above average season.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, oh, in my mind, the season was an A. But then if you take every individual race and you add it up and you grade it all together, it still comes out as a B and a B+ season. That's a great season. We didn't have a whole lot of F races. I think Atlanta, the first Atlanta race, was an F for all of us. I gave it a D+. Matt, you gave it a D, and Eric gave it an F. That was the first F the whole season, and the first one, and up until I believe Coda. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at my phone right now.
My Indy road course grade was a little weird too, because like I gave it an A up until
and you gave Indy road course an F. Those are the only 2 Fs this whole season. Right. There was
even that F wasn't a real F for me, because like that race was amazing up until the whole turtle debacle happened. Yeah. Remember that? So like that's another thing too, is like this NASCAR season had a couple crazy things happen as far as everything.
There was a lot of memorable things this season.
Yeah. Everything at New Hampshire with Kyle Busch, wrecking his car because of rain and NASCAR not calling a caution, and we had the Indy road course where, I mean, we had restart after restart in the last 10 laps. People were just destroying their cars up because of a metal curb. And then Denny got punted by Briscoe, and Briscoe got black flagged, and Allmendinger ended up winning. Like, that was a crazy race. Like, we had a lot of crazy moments this year.
So I think like those races that we gave maybe the D's or the F's, they just so happen to be huge stories. That's why it wasn't just like it was a dud of a race or this happened. Like it was, I'll give it a D or an F. No, like, and I think that's what skewed, I think, a lot of fans' perspective on the whole entire season, was that there were whatever bad races there were or bad incidents, they were just absolutely terrible incidents.
Glaring incidents.
They just stuck out like a sore thumb, and it really not just stuck around for that week. It kind of carried
for a couple weeks.
So it felt, even though you might have had a good race afterward, there was still lingering effects of some of these other races and the incidents that happened there that kind of maybe skewed people's minds on that. It really was a better season than people think.
I tell you what, we didn't hear much talk about rain tires after Coda. That was
Yeah.
that one got put to bed real quick. All right, so that was the race season grade. What do you guys think for our checkers and wreckers as a whole? Matt, let's start with you. What was your checkers and wreckers for the season as a whole?
So I kept it open to NASCAR as a whole, not just the Cup Series.
So did I.
Okay. So yeah, my checkers went to Josh Berry. I've mentioned it a million times this season. 22 Xfinity Series starts. With only 22 Xfinity Series starts, he still finished 17th in points. He had 2 wins, 6 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and he parlayed all of that into a full-time ride with Junior Motorsports next year. Just an absolute amazing story this guy has. I can't wait to see where it leads him into the future. He's one of the most talented guys that we have in the Xfinity Series, and just that alone, he gets my checkers. He had an amazing season, not a storybook season, because I guess that would have ended with maybe a championship, but as good as it could have went for him, it went that good.
Yeah, I agree. Josh Berry absolutely made the best of the opportunities he was given this year, and I can't wait to see what he does in 2022. How about your wreckers?
Absolutely.
What was your wreckers for the season?
It went to Stewart-Haas Racing. In particular, that number 4 Kevin Hart. No, I'm just joking. I'll leave that grudge. I'll leave that grudge in the 2021 season.
Okay.
But no, Stewart-Haas Racing. I mean, it's no secret that they were extremely underwhelming this year. I mean, they were just never ever around. They didn't produce at all. They had one win among 4 drivers, and that was Eric Almirola for a race that, the New Hampshire race that we just talked about. That, whatever. We're not going to get into it.
It was a shortened race due to
darkness.
But you want to know what? He was running really well. He earned that win regardless. He would have got that win.
Sure, but whatever. Sure, but that was Stewart-Haas's
only win
of the year. They had 2 drivers finish in the 20s in points. So just for being one of the top, probably 4 or 5 teams in NASCAR, in the NASCAR Cup Series, they really, really underperformed this year. So my records goes to them.
All right, Eric, how about you? What do you have your checkers and wreckers ready, or you want me to go first?
You know what? I mean, I could go, because I'm kind of going a different route here. Anyway, even before I was going to see what you guys had, but my checkers just goes to every single crew member, every single driver on these teams through the craziness of what COVID has brought to sporting in general, to stay healthy, to stay prepared. There's a lot of people that come in and out of these buildings and workshops that have to do their part in order to show up on Sundays. I mean, as far as I know, there were 0 incidences that kept a driver from getting in that car on the day that he was supposed to get in there. And they did a fantastic job as far as a major sports entertainment business doing the right thing and rolling it out and showing that it can be done. Because other sports, I'm not going to name names or anything, but tend to been struggling, as far as their COVID protocols and getting people on the same page. And I just think NASCAR as a whole, I was nervous about it. And I just thought they did an excellent job. Just everybody, not just the drivers, because it's not just the drivers.
No,
it's
those
everybody
crew
on that
guys,
team.
all the pit crew guys, even the truck drivers driving the haulers, all that stuff.
Dude, even their families have to be diligent, because if one of them pick it up somewhere, brings it home, they bring it to the shop. It's a nightmare. So the industry as a whole, Eric, I second what you're saying there. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I think the only driver I know that was out due to COVID protocol, I think it was Corey LaJoy, and he got it through contact at the radio station doing a MRN thing, so little things could happen here. I think a gas man had it. He was out, just little tiny hiccups here and there, but you never saw those massive this whole team is out due to COVID protocol. So
or a star player, you know what I mean? That's detrimental to the team is out. So I have to applaud them for really locking themselves down and being, strict and making, this season happen. My wreckers, man, like it was tough. You go through here and there. You could question, I gave NASCAR props for that, but I could also wreck them for some of their ways they handled things. But I really looked at one driver that I just have to wreck. Like in the beginning, I was rooting for him. And at the end of the season, he became an enemy of mine now. And I never thought that would happen. I always felt I stuck up for this guy when people said, I don't like him. He's this. I don't know why I don't like him. I just don't like him. And I'm like, no, listen, blah, blah. He's not like Denny Hamlin. He just, I think Denny just irritated me. Yes, he had a great year. Don't get me wrong. Battling for that point, it's weird that I'm wrecking him, but he just left a weird,
like a
bad
sour
taste
taste
in my mouth, a sour taste. And like being a veteran, being the guy that I thought Denny was for this sport, as far as like being like one of the role models, one of the leaders that is going to, transcend this sport to the next level. I always supported him and backed him. And it just feels like he's getting a little old and salty and grumpy. And I don't know. It just
kind of turned into Kevin Harvick a little bit.
Yeah, like I wish he was just a little bit. I mean, I understand you're frustrated and all this and that, but man, I thought he was going to handle it differently. I thought he was going to win the championship. I thought
he was going to win the championship too. I thought this was going to be the year that he got it done in like a clutch moment. Yeah.
But there's just a way to handle yourself, and he handled himself on multiple occasions. I don't know. I mean, who am I to say what the right and wrong way to handle yourself is in any given situation? But he handled himself unprofessionally. I think everyone could agree on that in a couple different instances this year.
I mean, I'm wrecking him just because I feel like he let me down. Like I always had his back and kind of defended him. And I've defended him on here before as far as certain things and doing that. Man, every time I defend him and like was like, okay, he just goes out and does something or says something. Now, don't get me wrong, it makes for a great Twitter feed.
Oh, he's a great Twitter troll.
Yeah, but at the same time, it got old for me, and I thought he was gonna burst through it and get that championship, and he just in turn I don't know.
When you were building up to who you were about to,
I was guessing. I'm like, I could guess like two different people, and neither of them was.
I thought you were
Denny.
going with another guy who is out of a job right now.
I just think
us three behind the scenes have talked about a lot.
It could have been, but that's
Matt Benedetto for the fun
there that I didn't want to really get into. That's of his own demise.
Yeah.
So
I just, man, like not to really get into it, but like. Matt DiBenedetto, fan favorite, the underdog, and just shooting himself in the foot one move after another.
Like if this was professional wrestling, they couldn't have written a better script for a heel
turn.
Like,
yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
Just like the last, the last maybe probably since the playoffs started was like as like a line of demarcation. Like he just doesn't. Again, another guy who just didn't handle himself the right way in a lot of different occasions, and I think that he lost a lot of fans the last probably 2 months of that season, and it's sad, but
I think
it's sad.
I think he listened to the internet a little bit too much, where he's like, oh, if you do this, you'll get this sponsor and this sponsor, like, oh, maybe since Brad's leaving Penske, you'll get to stay at the Wood Brothers. I think he really thought he was going to stay at the Wood Brothers. And Roger Penske's like, no, dude, we told you last year, you're out. Figure it out. And all I can think about, it's a dumb analogy, but I'm thinking about Billy Madison.
I was just thinking it.
Like that's where my mind goes, because I'm thinking about the puppy that lost his way. And like the dude, he didn't go out looking for that puppy. He sat on his fucking stoop waiting for a sponsor to come along. You got to go out there and find that fucking money to keep on racing,
But you're right, man. You're right. Like he just waited for it to come to him. He didn't he did nothing with his availability. And then I think what happened, I mean, not to get into this guy's head or personal life or anything, but from the outside looking in, what it seemed to me, what happened was he realized, oh shit, the season is the next season's a lot
running
sooner
out of time.
yeah, I'm running out of time. Like, I've got to do something to get some sort of sponsorship. And I just think he just made some really bad decisions, and it came to bite him in the butt. And now to this day, on November 22nd, he still doesn't have anything lined up for next year.
Yeah, no, he needs a PR person and a social media manager.
Yeah.
And someone to start calling to get him some sponsorship or something, because he's gonna be paying to ride in an Xfinity Series ride next year. I can guess that, if that. I'm gonna do my checkers and wreckers. A guy who we kind of praised for this move a little bit all season, but a hard move, I think, for someone in Cup. A move that Matt DiBenedetto didn't seem to be willing to do early on, that might have shot him in the foot, because Matt DiBenedetto has been like, I'm a Cup driver, I'm going to race in Cup. Well, there's a young guy, his name's John Hunter Nemechek, generational driver, second generational driver, Front Row Joe's son, who was in Cup. He was making that Cup money for Front Row Motorsports, and he wasn't happy with the performance of the car. And, you know, he did some talking to Kyle Busch on an airplane as they were flying to a race. He was hitching a ride with old Rowdy Busch. And Kyle's like, well, why don't you come race trucks with me? Try to get some wins. And he did it. He walked away from the money. He went down to the truck series, and he did a phenomenal job. Beat the boss a couple times in races. Unfortunately, didn't win the championship, but was there in the round of 4 race to win the championship. And I think he made an excellent move, a move that's probably a lot harder for a lot of those guys to make, because you never want to take a step back in your career. But sometimes taking 2 steps back puts you on a better path for the future anyways. And I think John Hunter Nemechek is the blueprint for that. And Eric, you've echoed those statements many times on this podcast, that maybe we should see a lot of these guys kind of take a step back, maybe run some truck seasons and Xfinity Series seasons, and get those wins instead of riding around in the back of the pack in a Rick Ware car. You know,
it's all about
exposure. That just shows, you know, especially at such a young age that John Hunter is at, to show how much that he's able to break down that ego and to not let an ego get in the way of his success. I think a lot of times ego gets in the way of people's success, and at a young age, it's hard to do that. It's hard to let go of that and not think you're going to be the best, and just to be real about it and be like, okay, this is what it is. What are my options? And it's very mature of him at a young age to make that decision and go down there and you know, to make that crucial decision to leave Cup. And I agree with you 100%, man. He just like Josh Berry, just took advantage of what was in front of him, and he nailed it.
Oh yeah. And that's scary to bet on yourself, but it's definitely paying off for him right now. We'll see how it happens in the future. But like, that was the first thing I thought of this whole entire season, all the great things we've seen. I'm like, man, I gotta give my checkers to John Hunter Nemechek. You know, like you can't beat that story. My wreckers though, kind of going in line with Matt's, but instead of Stewart-Haas Racing, I'm doing Ford Performance as a whole. We'll jump into it with the race team grades a little bit later on, but like you said, Stewart-Haas Racing, they had the 4 car, and that was it. Their one race win came from Eric Almirola, who got knocked out of the round of 16 in the playoffs. Cole Custer did nothing. Chase Briscoe had a chance to win at the Indy Road Course, got into Denny and of course wrecked. So, and other than that, you didn't really see a whole lot out of Chase Briscoe. He did get Rookie of the Year, but he was facing against Anthony Alfredo, who was another guy that didn't do anything really besides tear up race cars. And he was in a Ford too.
To be honest, Whitey, I don't want to, sorry to cut you off, but like, I saw that you went Ford Performance and Matt went SHR. I was going that route as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do, I mean, we could have just gave a whole, hey, like, because to me, when you sent the outline over, it was like, that was the most glaring thing to me that stood out. And I'm like, you obviously noticed it. So did Matt. And I'm like, ooh, all right. Like, they're going to go with that. They'll cover that. I'll go with more emotional side of it for me as far as that goes. But yeah, man, Ford Performance and just in general was just, they're just non-existent almost. It was strange to see that all unfold during the season.
And you know what? We'll get into it during the race grades for the team. But like for me, Team Penske was like the big glaring one. Of course, Stewart Haas, yeah, they had their issues. Kevin Harvick didn't win a race, but usually the other cars at Stewart Haas really don't perform that great. I mean, Clint Bowyer used to run in the top 10 pretty much every week, but that was about it, you know? But Penske, Joey Logano got one win, and it was at Bristol Dirt. Brad Keselowski got one win, and it was at Talladega. Ryan Blaney, who usually gets one win, propped the team up and got 3 wins. In fact, fun fact, this was the only season that Ryan Blaney had multiple wins on the season.
No, I don't believe it. I don't believe that fact.
But yeah, just to see the struggles of Team Penske really showed, I mean, it had to be a Ford problem. It had to be, because they did great last year, you know?
I just thought of something, and this might send up a different tangent here. We could maybe touch on it at a different time if you want, but we talked about Matty D and that whole thing. Do you think the Woods brothers are ever kicking themselves losing Ryan Blaney to Penske in that? Like, because I felt like him in that 21 car,
they were a great match. Yeah.
Such a good match. And
with this throwback lifestyle.
If he stayed there, would Blaney be the Blaney he is now? Or did his move to Penske really elevate his game? I would love to know where Ryan Blaney's at if he stays in that 21 car to this point.
I mean, it's tough to say because, you know, Ryan Blaney was in the Wood Brothers car early on in his career, so he was still developing, you know? And
that's always been a developmental team almost.
Yeah, and you move over to Team Penske, where the crew chiefs have been established. This year he was put with Todd Gordon, who won the championship with Joey Logano. I think Todd Gordon kind of helped him get those extra wins, you know. Todd Gordon and Joey Logano struggled last season, and I think that was part of one of the reasons why they moved over. And of course, Todd Gordon retired at the end of the season. But I don't know, because there's been times where I think like, oh, Ryan Blaney was definitely happier over at the Wood Brothers. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I just feel like
he just seems like he went into a little bit of a shell.
Yeah.
Penske, like he was never himself. Like he just, he was more outgoing in that 21. Maybe
I agree.
He's a little bit younger. Maybe he's maturing, and maybe it's a little bit of PR side of it where it's like, hey,
well, like, hey, now you have the spotlight on you a little bit more. You don't want to, you know,
right.
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's an impossible question to answer because, like, you don't know if it's just maturing or what. But I think he still could have had the same kind of performance that he's had. Maybe not 3 wins on a season, but I think he could definitely win a race in a Wood Brothers car. You know.
Yeah, I thought as far as Ford drivers go, he was the one that like kind of just shined.
Mm-hmm. He was. In my mind, like he was the one holding up the Ford camp the whole time.
Well, should we get into it? I mean, we're pretty much there already. Should we start grading these teams?
Absolutely. Let's jump into the race grade. So we have to start with the championship winning team. What would you guys grade Hendrick Motorsports as a whole organization?
So
I gave him an A+.
Okay, there you go. Right. So the way I did my grading, and I don't know about you guys, but I pretty much my starting foundation for each team was what were my expectations going into the season and how did they perform?
Yeah.
So if let's just say if they performed how I expected them to perform, it would get a C. If they outdid my expectations, it would go up from there. So
okay.
Hendrick, with that being said, Hendrick got an A+ from me. They had an awesome season in 2020, winning a championship, winning races and all that, but they took it all to another level, and particularly Kyle Larson. I mean, they had 17 wins. I mean, almost half the races were won by Hendrick. All drivers won, all drivers made it to the playoffs, and they won the championship. So you have to give them an A+ in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, you guys gave him an A+. I just gave him a straight A, but only one other team got an A, and that's because the other team far exceeded my expectations. I expect Hendrick to be an A team every year. You know, they're coming off the 2020 championship. I expect them to do somewhat similar to this. I would tell you, I was very impressed with William Byron. I feel like he's come out of his shell a little bit more. Alex Bowman, up and down, but still tied for second in win count. He got himself 4 wins. Chase Elliott, Chase, I feel, performed a little bit lower to my expectation for him being a returning champion, but he was still right there in the mix. You know, it's not like he completely fell off. I think he just had a little bit of rust. I don't know why, you know.
Whitey, you're a relatively new fan to NASCAR, you know, and I mean, you know, within the past few years.
Oh, I know a couple years ago, Hendrick was like a C
it was
team.
Struggling.
Oh,
man.
no,
yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it was hard because they had Junior, they had Casey Kane, they had Jimmie Johnson, and they have Jeff Gordon.
No, I know.
Four Hall of Famers in my mind, and they struggled big time. So to see where they're at now, as a fan of Hendrick Motorsports, it's really great to see.
I was just going like, I expect them to be an A after their performance last year, you know? So like you kind of keep that momentum rolling, but you know, you guys A+, I give them an A. Let's move on to Joe Gibbs Racing. Eric, what would you rate Joe Gibbs Racing season as a whole?
I mean, this one was tough for me because some of the drivers are kind of up and down for me. I gave them a B+.
Okay.
I gave him a B+ too. 9 wins, all drivers won, all drivers made it to the playoffs. Yeah, B+.
I gave him an A-. But I agree. All the drivers won. 2 of them made it to the round of 4. That's why I gave them that little extra because they were there competing. Of course, Denny and Martin Truex Jr. I liked Christopher Bell getting his first win. He got a whole bunch of top 5s and top 10s this season. I feel like he's maturing and getting better. The only reason why I wouldn't give Gibbs an A completely is Martin Truex Jr. kind of fell off in the playoffs up until the last couple, like Martinsville and stuff. Like, I don't know what happened to MTJ, but he felt like out of the mix a little bit, you know?
See, I gave them the B- just for the pure fact that Kyle Busch was kind of non-existent for me too. Like, it wasn't just MTJ. MTJ fell off in the summer. Kyle Busch was irrelevant to me all year, which is weird.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
like he didn't have his flashy season. To me, Christopher Bell, and being an Erik Jones fan, that's a fucking gimmick car and a half there that he went into. You know what I mean? Like, Erik Jones could have done that. Anyone could have done what he did in that car this year. So it's like he didn't overperform the car. Like, if you like, I expected Christopher Bell, being a Christopher Bell fan, to really blow Erik Jones. If you're getting rid of somebody, like I really thought he was going to be in contention every week. And I just feel like Gibbs had a lot of hype and they didn't live up to that hype. That's why I gave Hendrick that A+, because I feel like they had the hype being Hendrick champion going in. And man, everyone on that team kind of elevated themselves, and Gibbs, they either stayed the same or some drivers went down in my eyes. So that's where I went between the two, I think, best teams in the sport right now, which is Hendrick and Gibbs. And that is why I went the way they were. I think Hendrick is improving and I think Gibbs is stagnant. And on some of the drivers didn't even perform to where I thought.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean,
yeah, go ahead, Whitey.
I mean, right there, you could sway me to a B+, but I'm going to stay in my laurels and stick with an A-. Let's see. Team Penske. What would you guys rate Team Penske as a whole?
So if C is meeting expectations, I went B- because all 5 drivers won, all 5 drivers made it in the playoffs, and all 5 drivers made it to that round of 8. Or I'm sorry, all 3 drivers made it to that. Yeah, I don't know why I kept saying 5. All 3 drivers made it to that round of 8. So for that alone, that gave me the B+. If not, I would have put it at a C. I almost would have put it at a C- because in some ways they underperformed. You expect more out of that team. And I don't know. I feel like I'm even being a little generous here, giving them that B-, but B-. How
about you?
I gave him a C+. I gave him a C+. Yeah, I just think they were not where they usually are. Yes, they did make those rounds of 8 in the playoffs, but like it was kind of like didn't expect them. It was kind of like how Michael McDowell won the 500. Like, it was one of those things. Like they made the playoffs the same way Michael McDowell did in my eyes. Like
where they got to the round there. Like when they got to the round of 8, I was like, man, they're still in contention here. Like I had already written them off and put them in the back of my mind. That's why
to me, it wasn't due to them doing it. It was due to other people screwing up or having bad days that caused them.
It kept them alive.
Yeah, and so that to me, Blaney saved them, man. If Blaney didn't have the year that Blaney had, it might have been worse than a C+ for me.
Yeah, I give Penske a C+ also, and it's only because of Ryan Blaney's performance. Like when I think Team Penske, I think Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski winning multiple races. That is the standard. And when Brad and Joey only win one race each, it's like, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah. Like, and when you say multiple races, and I agree with that, like I'm thinking like 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Each,
yeah.
You know, they just
at least 3 each, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I gave him a C+, but sorry, but for the like metrics of like where you expect them to be, like probably a C in reality, you know? How about Stewart-Haas Racing? What would you guys give Stewart-Haas Racing?
I already went into it, so I'll just give you my grade and move on. I gave him a D-.
Okay. How about you, Eric?
I gave him an F. It was just despicable to me. I just think they did a half-assed job putting drivers in the rides themselves. I thought they could have done a little better putting that whole group together. Like Hendrick, they got their 4 people in those seats, and I think they're going to the future. Stewart-Haas still doesn't have their drivers of the future yet. So
the only thing that took them from an F to a D- is that one lonely win. Other than that, just embarrassing year for them.
So I might be a little generous here, but I'm giving Stewart-Haas Racing a C-. And because I don't expect a whole lot out of the other 3 Stewart-Haas Racing cars. Maybe because like I expect top
Chase
10.
Briscoe won 9 races in the Xfinity Series the year before.
And what did I tell you guys at the beginning of the season? People were like, "Oh, Chase Briscoe's going to light up." I'm like, he's not going to do anything. Pump your brakes. Relax.
To finish in the 20s.
Well, who was in the car before that? It was Clint Boyer, and he was finishing top 15s. You know.
Well, that's better than the 20. I mean, I'm not arguing you're great. I'm just trying to get where you're at.
Yeah, but like Clint
I
Boyer,
don't see how anyone.
Clint Boyer is a veteran in the sport. You have a rookie coming in. I expect the Chase Briscoe kind of to land where he landed, because that's kind of what Cole Custer did last year. I would have expected Cole Custer to run a little bit better this year, being his second season in Cup. He should be kind of used to it, but he didn't do shit, you know. But before him, who was in Cole Custer's car? It was Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez really didn't do much in that car either. He wrecked a lot of those cars, to be honest with you. So, like, I don't expect a whole lot out of those other Stewart-Haas Racing cars. I expect top 15, top 10s out of Eric Almirola, maybe a top 5 here and there at certain tracks that he's good at. And then I expect Kevin Harvick to be that money car. I expect the 4 winning races, maybe not dominating like he did last season, but still at least win 2 or 3 races. You know, and he didn't do anything. And so maybe I'm just generous with him. I give him a C- compared to you guys. But how about Ganassi? What do you guys give Ganassi?
I give Ganassi a B+. To me, a team that found out they're folding, they're not going to be there. A team that never really was in contention for championships and to really be a premier team like the Hendricks or Gibbs, to work through all of that and to end of the season, man, the fight that team had. Yeah. I developed a little bit of a respect for that. Like where they're supposed to perform, I felt like they went over that, you know? So that's why I gave them that B+, because they outperformed those cars. Yeah, did Chastain get a little aggressive in that 42 at the end? A little bit. You know, a little bit.
That's his MO, though.
He's an aggressive driver. That's how he drives.
It showed determination. It showed, hey, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to, run these races. And obviously Kurt Busch honest to God, I thought he was going to be done for. I thought, he's in that one car. He's just in a seat. He's just going to ride around it. And he outperformed, for my eyes, what he was supposed to do. He outperformed himself this year too, and he got a ride out of it, and that just shows what Matty D didn't do.
He had multiple offers from different teams, and he could have drove simulator work. Kurt Busch. We said at the beginning of the season, he's always good for one win. He got that one win. He had a nice little playoff run, got eliminated early, but even throughout the playoffs, he was still up in the top 10
fighting.
And
Right.
yeah,
It's that fight that really gave me the, I don't know, to give him that B plus.
yeah.
The fight.
Yeah.
How about you,
Everything
Matt?
everything Eric just said. But I gave him a B. But yeah, I could have been a B plus too. You know, everything Eric just said, I totally agree with.
Yeah, we're all on the same page here. I gave them a B. Like Eric said, for a team shutting down, you don't expect a whole lot, and they never gave up. You know, you got to respect that. And yeah, I thought they had a great season. How about RCR? What do you guys give RCR?
You're not gonna like this.
That's okay.
I gave him a C. I gave him a C because I guess I'm going to change that to a C minus if C is expectations, because I expected them to be a little bit better than where they were. They were just too inconsistent. They had both the 3 and the 8 had really bright shining moments throughout the season. Just couldn't put it all together for a win.
Yeah.
They're both really talented. I've told you, Whitey being a Reddick fan, that Reddick is, as far as raw talent goes, in my mind, he's a top probably 5 or 10 as far as raw talent goes in the Cup Series.
Mm-hmm.
He's just got to put it together, get some better equipment at RCR.
We'll get there.
But I gave him C, just too inconsistent for me.
I could completely agree with that. How about you, Eric? What'd you give RCR?
I gave RCR a C plus. You know, they're a team where Austin Dillon is in the same boat as Kurt Busch for me. Good for that one random win a year.
Yeah.
And you know, he's getting a little bit more mature, and I'm actually appreciating and watching him on Sundays a little bit more because he is in the mix more often. So you have to give him a little bit of respect there. But, you know, he kind of regressed a little bit, didn't get that win, kind of struggled here and there. Matt nailed it as far as the consistency goes. For me, it just wasn't there at RCR this year.
You know what? I had it down as a B, and that's definitely my bias showing. So I'm going to move it down to a C plus. But I was looking at RCR the same way I looked at Ganassi, where I didn't see in my whole idea, I wasn't really expecting a win. You know, I'm hoping for the win the whole time, but like Eric said, like Austin Dillon, he kind of just lucks himself into wins. You know, like he puts himself in a good position to get a win. He never goes out and dominates a race. So I wasn't expecting wins from RCR. So I was happy with Tyler Redding's performance, but like you said, up and down. He either did really well or he did really bad. Austin Dillon, though, for me, I did expect more out of Austin Dillon. I feel like he was just running top 15s. Like, yeah, he was in the top 10, but he was never in the conversation. You know, at least with Reddick, the broadcast guys were like, oh man, Tyler Reddick's having a great day today. You know, that's my Jeff Burton impression. Jeff Burton. But
well, to me, that's what like last year, I saw a little bit of growth out of Austin Dillon, and I saw him getting a little bit better, and I didn't see that this year. I saw him like kind of regress a little bit and kind of not hit that mark where he was last year.
Yeah, so I'll move mine down to a C plus, but they were a B in my heart. How about the Wood brothers, Matty D? We kind of shit on them earlier, expecting the same for here. What was your race grade, Matt? Or not race grade, but team grade?
A D for Matty D. I mean, no wins. He only had 3 top 5s, 9 top 10s, and he finished 18th in points in a contract year where he really had to prove something to someone. He didn't.
Yeah.
He had a bad attitude towards the end. He made some bad decisions that, you know, to defend him, he did admit later on that he made some bad decisions, but I think that's a little bit of saving face that he was doing there as well. So just, I expected more from him, and he didn't perform, and now he's out of a ride. So I gave him a D.
How about you, Eric? D?
Same. Agree with Matt 100%.
I was a little generous. I gave a C minus for the Wood brothers because honestly, I mean, yeah, it's Penske equipment, but I really don't expect them to go out and win from week to week. But I mean, maybe if Matt DiBenedetto won Talladega, the first Talladega race, he threw that one away. Maybe they would have gotten a higher grade from me. But yeah, I mean, I didn't really see anything out of them this season. Not like last season. At least last season, there was some glimpses where you're like, oh yeah, Matty D's got the talent to get a win. This season, I didn't see any of that except for at that Talladega race. How about Roush Fenway Racing?
They got my first F here with the team race grades, and I'll tell you why. Honestly, it was mostly, what I saw some really good things out of Buescher, but Ryan Newman, the Rocket Man, was just so out of sight, out of mind. So there was no wins among either of them. Only only three top fives for that team. 13 top tens between two drivers, and they finished 19th and 28th in points. Just a total letdown of a year. I think the one silver lining that they have is they've got Brad Keselowski coming into that organization, and I think he's really going to put a spark in them. And that the next gen car, might even the playing surfaces a little bit. So listen, Chris Buescher is an Xfinity Series champion, so he's an established driver. He's a proven wheelman. So and we all know Brad Keselowski's resume. So I think next year might be a little bit better for them, but this year stunk. They got an F.
Yeah. How about you, Eric? What'd you give him? Do you go F?
No, I gave him a D,
Okay.
just for the pure fact, like Matt touched on. I really found myself giving props to Buescher this year. I really felt he kind of, for what that equipment was, for what that team is, for the teammate he had, like Matt said, in Ryan Newman, I thought Buescher actually had a decent year in that car, and he made that car better than what it was. I think you put anyone else in that car, they might not run as well as Buescher ran that car. So that just shows to me that, like Matt said, he is a wheelman. I believe he's a decent driver in this series. So Buescher really saved that grade for me from being an F.
Yeah,
he was always a good value pick, Buescher, this year.
Matt, I was just gonna say it. I give Roush a D, and Chris Buescher was the only saving grace because I played him at least 3 times in fantasy. I never even thought about playing Ryan Newman except for at the Daytona 500, and he stayed in the garage. So that goes to show you there. So yeah, big D for Roush Fenway Racing. We'll see what Brad K could do next season. How about Front Row Motorsports, comprising of Anthony Alfredo and Michael McDowell?
I gave them a C. Besides the one outlier where Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500, between the two drivers, they only had 2 top 5s this season, only 6 top 10s. They finished. Michael McDowell finished 16th by default. Yeah. In the point standings, and Alfredo finished 30th. McDowell in the first maybe 10 or 15 races showed some glimpses of keeping that going throughout the season, but then just kind of dropped off. And then Anthony Alfredo couldn't stay off the wall the latter half of the year. So they got a C only because of the Daytona 500 win.
Yeah, I agree. Almost word for word. I gave him a C. And that beginning couple of races stretch, Michael McDowell kind of showed that maybe he did belong in the playoffs in those first 12 or so races. And then after that, it kind of proved our point once these other bigger teams get going and into the season that, those smaller teams aren't going to even have a shot. So, they did win the 500. So I gave them a C.
Yeah, that Daytona 500 money really runs out quick when it comes to speed early on in the season. But I gave him a B-. I guess I was a little generous on that one, but you guys nailed it.
It's the holidays, man. You're in a giving mood.
Oh yeah. How about 2311 Racing? Matt, what did you give them?
If C is the expectation, I gave him a B-.
Okay.
I mean, Bubba got that win. He did finish 21st in points. He got 3 top 5s and he had 3 top 10s. I didn't expect them to win a race, and say what you will about a rain short in super speedway race. I don't care. He won the race. Yeah. He earned it. So you got to give him a B-, but I expect more out of them next year. I mean, they have to start performing, especially with that second team.
How about you, Eric? What'd you give 2311?
I gave him a C. I just think for most of the year, they were just blah. They did nothing. Yeah. I expected more out of them because in the beginning, I gave Bubba all the benefit of the doubt. I said, okay, here, you're going to get a shot in a Gibbs-affiliated ride here. Denny Hamlin's your owner. You're going to get to pick the ears of some of the best of the best. Yep. There's no complaining now. This is it. You go out there and if you could do what you do, you go out there and do it. And, man, some weeks he looked strong and others he just didn't. And his finishes just weren't there. And as far as the point standing goes, got a couple stage points here and there to get up ahead of certain other people. But as far as, just the season goes, it didn't really live up to my hopes for Bubba. I wanted him to do better, but it just didn't happen. So I gave him a C.
Well, this might shock you. I gave them the lowest grade of the three. I give them a C minus. I was expecting big things on 2311 with their Gibbs affiliation. They were expecting big things themselves. I believe Michael Jordan said we're going to go out and win 3 races, which it's very admirable to shoot for the stars like that with a new team. I think they set the bar a little too high though. And so they did not meet that. Of course, yeah, he got that one win at Talladega, and you can't take that away from him. But just the season we saw, like you said, Eric, he was up and down. He'd show glimmers of hope where he'd be running in the top 10, and then he'd cut a tire and go down a lap. Like just a lot of bad luck, a lot of weird calls. I think honestly, I really do think a lot of it was the crew chief. I think Mike Wheeler is a bad crew chief. But we'll see what happens in 2022 with Kurt Busch, and we'll see what happens with Bubba and Booty Baker. I think he's a great addition to the team so far. But yeah, C minus for 2311 did not live up to my expectations. How about Richard Petty Motorsports? Matt, what did you give old RPM?
I gave him a C. They kind of met my expectations. 24th in points, 6 top 10s. Kind of where I expected him to be, right around. So yeah, I gave him a C.
How about you, Eric?
I gave him a B minus, just for the fact that, first year for Erik Jones going over there to the 43, what the 43 did in previous years. And, obviously I'm a little biased here too. And I look at, where Bubba went to that 2311.
Yeah.
And, so Bubba's in way better equipment, and his average start was 19.9 and his average finish was 19.6.
Yeah.
Erik Jones this year, his average start was 22.6 and his average finish 19.6. They had the same average finish.
Yeah.
And I would assume you're in that 2311 car versus that 43 car. You have to do better, Bubba. I'm sorry. So to give Bubba and that team a C, I had to give Erik Jones a little bit better because worse equipment, same outcome pretty much. So
yep, fair.
That's where I grade that.
I agree, but since I gave 2311 a C minus, I'm giving Richard Petty Motorsports a C. They performed exactly how I expect Richard Petty Motorsports at this point. I believe Erik Jones finished in the same points position that Bubba did last year. You have to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
1 or 2. It's around the same.
Yeah.
It's almost dead on. Yeah.
I was hoping Erik Jones could do something in that car and outperform it a little bit. And he did at certain tracks. I mean, Bristol, he's always great at. What was it? Martinsville. I think he got a top 10 in the playoffs there.
Yeah, became an 8th.
Yeah.
8th.
So we saw some good solid finishes here and there from RPM at tracks that, Erik Jones is always good at. But yeah, I mean, just kind of what we expect from RPM at that time. They don't put a lot of money into that team, and it's a shame. We all complain about it. Richard Petty kind of just going off of his name and kind of just collecting checks. I feel like, but when you look into the structure and the organization of RPM, there's a lot of corporate money in there.
I think you'll see him go up next year just with practice and qualifying, because if, like I said, his average starting position was 23rd, and he finished 19.6 or 20th, so he went 3 spots up.
Yeah,
Bubba stayed exactly the same. So, like, to me, he did kind of 3 spots. He performed better than he was supposed to at the start of that race. I think with starting position, it could have changed a little bit of those top 10 numbers and top 5 numbers for him.
How about JTG Doherty, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Ryan Preece? What do you guys grade that team?
So I gave it a C+, just above expectations for 2 reasons. One, they got 2 top 5s, 6 top 10s, which is about what I expected. But where the plus comes into play is, guys, we've said it a bunch of times. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. kept his car clean. For what his resume shows in the past, he cleaned his act up this year, which is really surprising. And just another thing too is like Brad Daugherty, I love that guy.
Me
He's
too.
on the
He's
NBC.
such a
He's on the
likable
NBC.
guy.
Yeah, he is. He's on the NBC broadcast. He has such an energy to him. He has a natural love and enjoyment of the sport. And yeah, so I gave them a C+.
Yeah, Tuesday nights, Brad Doherty is on the late shift with Brad Gilly. And just listening to him talk, listening to him interact with fans and answer questions, he's just a nice guy. And I just root for that team overall. And I'm going to jump the gun here, Eric, on you, but I give him a B-. If Ricky kept him clean, outperformed my expectations, and yeah, I like that team, man. I might be a
sticker that says Ricky kept him clean.
Ricky kept him clean. I might be a closet Ricky Stenhouse Jr. fan right now. You know,
yeah, that's a good sticker. I like that.
How about you, Eric? What'd you give?
I just gave him a regular old B because same thing. You know, Ricky Stenhouse, he wasn't, you know, Ricky Spinhouse, and you know, kept it clean like we said, and you know, he to me, you know, I don't know. He always got shit on, but I always believe in him for some reason. I always still have that faith that he could win, and he's gonna get that win, especially at those speedways. And then, you know, who else is over there on that team? Priest, right?
Yeah,
Ryan
Priest.
Yep.
He had his struggles last season. He cleaned it up this season. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, he does. That's a non-chartered car.
Exactly.
And to be there, like, that's impressive on its own. To like be in that car and to run decent. And I know, again, fantasy, like a back marker guy that you could rely on to get you a decent amount of points. It's always going to be Ryan Priest, I feel like.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's losing that ride. They're going to a one-car team next year. We'll see what happens with him. How about Trackhouse Racing, another new team? What do you guys give it?
I gave him a B+.
Okay.
I'll second that. That. Yep.
Because, dude, I've said it before and recently, like, I'm a fan of Suarez. I think he, you know, he's coming into himself as a race car driver, just, you know, coming from, you know, Mexico and just the barriers that he had to get through.
Just the language barrier.
And, you know, with the crew chief, how important that is, that communication back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
It's huge. And I just think there was glimpses of, oh, my God, Suarez might win this race. And, you know, to me, to be there, to be in contention in that car, and, you know, Trackhouse being, you know, I'm going to say, like, they're, I don't know what kind of money because of who's
Justin Marks and everyone in Pitbull. Yeah.
And Pip, I don't know. I can't say they're a back marker team as far as money wise goes, but
I didn't expect it. You know,
I just didn't expect it at all.
No.
They performed what I thought that they were going to do in that car.
Yeah,
the finishes weren't there. I mean, 1 top 5, 4 top 10s, 25th in points. But like you said, there were moments where you look up and Suarez is running in the top 5 or the top 10. And yeah, I was blown away and super impressed by them. I'm excited to see where that team goes next year.
Yeah, I give them a B. And just because I didn't expect anything from them as a new team coming in, even early before the Daytona 500, Daniel Suarez was like, I'm going to be in the best equipment I've ever been in. And we're like, well, how? You were in Gibbs equipment, you know? But I mean, he showed that the equipment is there. It has its potential. It's just, you know, he was another guy. He'd be running top 10, have a pit road penalty, and then get put a lap down or whatever. So just comparing him to Bubba and 2311, where I expected the world from 2311, expected nothing from Trackhouse. They kind of performed the same, but because the expectations were different, it kind of weighs them different. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Someone I had no expectations from, another new team, Spire Motorsports. What'd you guys give Spire?
They finished 29th in points. I mean, that's exactly what I expected them to do. A C.
Yeah.
I gave them a D. It's just so many times they did some bullshit, dumb stuff at the end of a race and tried to get, you know, you're battling with the 28th and 29th driver. Like, just get your head out of your own ass and cut that ego. Like I said, you're fighting for 28th, 29th. Like, you're going to ruin a race for somebody. And they, you know, I gave him a D for those stupid airhead moves in some of these races.
Yeah, I gave him an F because as a new team, looking at Trackhouse, not expecting much. I wasn't expecting much from Spire either, you know, but they kind of hyped himself up. Corey LaJoie's like, hey, we're going to do great things. We got Hendrick engines. We got our bodies. We're going to roll. And then they did nothing. You know, they kind of just got in the way a lot of times. And Corey
Right.
LaJoy, real aggressive driver. When you're a lap down, maybe pump the brakes a little bit and not drive so aggressively. So I gave Spire an F. Rick Ware Racing, I think we could all agree.
F.
F.
Yep. Starcom Racing.
F.
F.
I give him a D. I give Quinn Half a D because he made a great save at the Bristol Dirt Race and he didn't wreck Martin Truex Jr.
I like it.
Saving grace for the season right there. And the final team, a part-time team, Colleague Racing.
A+ for me.
How about
They
you,
won a
Eric?
race.
I gave him a B+.
I gave him an A. Part-time team, 5 starts, and they won a race. They won the Indy road course. Before the show, me and Matt were looking at the stats. AJ Allmendinger had, out of 5 races, 2 top 5s. Technically 3 top 10s. So he had a top 10, 2 top 5s, and then he had 2 bad races where he came in like 28th. And
one was because of an engine failure.
Yeah. So Colleague Racing, A, all day
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all I have for the race team grades. There's some other part-time teams. Gonna just ignore those guys. No disrespect. Just really, I mean,
Short on time.
short on time.
Yeah,
They're back markers.
not much to say.
We got some pickle lanes. It's Thanksgiving week. And I want to know, the choose cone is out, fellas. You guys get to decide. I want to know, do you do cranberry sauce? It's a divisive topic. What do you think about cranberries? Wow.
I gave it the big no. The only thing that cranberries are useful for is a little cranberry and vodka action. Other than that, keep cranberries out of my life.
I could get behind that cranberry vodka. But how about you, Eric? What about cranberries on Thanksgiving?
All right. I've only ever had cranberry juice. I've never had I've never had the little gelatin thing you see on. I've never even attempted to eat it. That's, put it that way. I've never even wanted to go near it. I don't even know what it tastes like if I did try it, but I have to go no, just because I'm afraid to even try it.
Okay.
Yeah,
It looks
don't.
gross.
Don't. Yeah.
I'm swerving to the other lane. I am pro cranberry. Give me that gelatinous cranberry sauce. Give me fresh cranberries. I don't care. They're bitter. They're tart. I love them. I think they're delicious. Although I eat them as a dessert. I don't put them on turkey and the mashed potatoes. I think that's fucking weird. I don't mix them together. There's a pizza place around us that does a pilgrim pizza where they do turkey and gravy and then they put cranberry sauce on it. Fuck that. No, just literally give me the bowl of the cranberry and I'm going to eat that.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to ask you if you did have like certain places, restaurants around here, they have sandwiches.
Yeah,
and pizza.
no,
Like,
no,
Wawa,
that's just
I think,
gross.
always every year
Wawa.
comes out with their Thanksgiving, their hoagie that they have that everyone rants and raves over. But I've never had it. I think I did have a piece of that Pilgrim pizza, but there wasn't cranberry sauce on it.
It's
so
like a
there's
cranberry
gravy on the side.
reduction thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good. It's really good. Shout out to Sabatini's in Exeter, Pennsylvania. Amazing pizza.
All right. Choose come back out. Next topic. Stuffing or mashed potatoes? Which is the supreme side for Thanksgiving?
There's only one right answer here, and it's not mashed potatoes. Stuffing is amazing, man. So shout out. She doesn't listen, but my dad will get this back to her. My stepmom makes a homemade stuffing every year, and I can literally make that a meal in itself. It's amazing. She throws in a homemade sausage in it, and like it's just all homemade stuff, and it is phenomenal. I love stuffing so much.
Okay. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, you can eat mashed potatoes anytime you want. You have it with other
Stuffing
meals.
is
You have
special.
it with this. You have it with that. Stuffing, I have it one time a year, Thanksgiving. And I try to make it that way so that every year it is that excitement build up. I can't wait to have that stuffing. And I'll tell you what, I don't get it anymore. But when I was younger, they actually used to stuff the bird with it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
now
yeah.
it's made separate, but there's nothing better than the stuffing that when you stuff the bird and you get it out, that true real made stuffing in the bird.
You get that salmonella E. coli stuffing.
I'll even say this. I don't even think I think stuffing gets a raw what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a raw
deal? The raw end of the deal.
Gets the raw end of the deal. They're not a side in my mind. They are part of the main course.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
love stuffing.
Yeah.
I agree. Gotta go stuffing over mashed potatoes. Like Eric said, you can have mashed potatoes all the time. Mashed potatoes like 3 times a week. Stuffing though is special. But unlike Matt, I wouldn't say I'm white trash. I would say I'm more white recycling. Because I love stovetop stuffing, man. I love that shit out of the box.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure the homemade stuff you have is phenomenal, but there's just something about that shitty box stuffing. It's,
nothing. I love that stuffing too. I love that stuff. I've just been treated to an unbelievable homemade stuffing.
Right. That's like now it's top now because my mother, she doesn't have the time. She's going to, I'm just going to do the stovetop,
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that too.
Yep.
All right. And the last pickle lane. I don't know. I don't even know if this is divisive or not. Choose cone is out. Is turkey overrated?
Thanksgiving turkey is overrated. We're not talking about the sandwich sliced meat. I'm talking about Thanksgiving turkey is overrated. It's a dry meat. It's kind of a tasteless meat. If you don't put gravy on it or you don't throw it in the mashed potatoes or something like that, it's kind of eh. So, yeah, I think turkey is overrated. There's a reason why we only have it once a year.
I agree with you. I love turkey, but the turkey is made by the other stuff that surrounds it.
Yeah.
So the stuff that surrounds the turkey is nothing. Without the good gravy on it, you can have turkey with a shitty gravy. It's still just going to be a bland old turkey, like you said. Like everything kind of around it makes the turkey what it is. So I have to agree. I would say, yeah, it is overrated. But have you ever had a deep fried turkey?
So that's my problem.
I've never
had a deep fried turkey. That's my problem.
So this is where I could say it's overrated, but at the same time, it's also the best I've ever had. A deep fried turkey.
Okay.
You can't recreate it. I've never had anything as good as when I ate that deep fried turkey. It was, I can't even explain. Like Matt, you said, everything about it was just phenomenal. And I only had it one time, and I still think about it.
Okay.
So I agree. Turkey, little overrated. The Thanksgiving meal as a whole, phenomenal. But I think I would rather chicken than turkey. But there is a caveat to that, because I think that the Black Friday turkey sandwich is one of the best sandwiches you have of the year. You have the nice big chunks of turkey. You throw some Hellman's mayonnaise. Shout out to Dale Jr. And you put that bitch on some Italian bread. Oh my God, that's my favorite sandwich of the year. I love it.
I'm with you on that one. But overall, I think it's a little overrated.
Yes.
All right, and since it is Thanksgiving week, I figured I stole this from the morning drive on Sirius XM this morning. They did what they were thankful for NASCAR. I want to know, what are you guys thankful for NASCAR this year? We'll start with Matt.
So yeah, well, everything. We all have, a lot to be thankful for, in our personal lives. But for NASCAR specific, the fact that we had a large number of our friends give the sport a chance this year.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that was because they listened to us and they wanted to kind of watch the races so they knew what we were talking about, or maybe it's because they were truly interested in the sport. We had a lot of first timers come up to the Pocono race with us who ended up loving it, who said that they're going to come back year after year after year. That's what it's all about right there. I'm thankful for that, because we're doing our part as fans and then as ambassadors of the sport that we love, and we're helping grow that out.
Yeah.
So I'm really thankful for that.
How about you, Eric? Did you figure out what you were thankful for NASCAR?
Yeah, this year I was very, very thankful that Joey Logano just didn't win, didn't do jack shit, and I didn't have to worry about him all year. So I'm thankful that the 22 was non-existent and he was zero threat to me all year.
Never forget, though, you did give Joey Logano your checkers one week. I forget what the race was.
One time, because you know what? You have to throw the dog a bone every once in a while. You know.
Yeah.
I am thankful for fans in the stands. So last year, 2020, crazy year, something I don't think any of us ever imagined would happen. Completely shut down the whole entire world and country. We didn't know what was going to happen. You remember that weekend in Atlanta? Everyone was freaking out. We didn't know what was going on.
The race was on. The race was off. The race was on.
They're canceling. They're just doing truck race. Like, who knew what was going on?
That's when COVID became real for me, is when they sent the NASCAR guys home from Atlanta. I was like, my life is over.
I tell you what, same page, because you want to know what? Every morning I would be watching Good Morning America as I'm getting ready for work. They talked about, like, the first COVID case in California. I'm like, oh, whatever, you know. Oh, we found 2 more natural COVID cases in California, and just little here and there. And then, yeah, when NASCAR shut down, man, that was real, you know, because then everything around here shut down like that same week. So yeah, last year, just the weird year we had. And then for this year to be back, as governors were opening up states, we slowly got fans in the stands. We got fans back in the stands, and then we finally got fans like back on pit road and stuff. By the time we got to Pocono, where we weren't even allowed there last year, we were walking around Pocono like
bikes around the track.
Yeah, like it was like okay, this is normal. Yeah, we don't have practice and qualifying, but we're back, baby, we're back. So I was just thankful that NASCAR, like you said earlier, Matt, got through the season without any hiccups or anything like that. Or was it you, Eric, that said like no team members?
That's what I said, yeah.
Sorry, like you said, Eric, just no hiccups. Everything went real smooth. Other sports,
fans, not only were they back, Whitey, the fans came back
excited to be back.
They showed up. Like there was a few races where I actually I paused it and I'm like, look at the grandstands right now. Like I was impressed.
Nashville.
They have certain
Nashville was insane.
Oh my, it was insane. Like that was one that came to my head that I remember was like, wow, that it almost reminded me of like a 90s race where like if you just went back to back, you'd be like, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
That's how packed they were. So yeah, I did maybe take that for granted, not really looking at that as a whole, the fans being back. That was I like that.
Good shout out there, yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's our little Thanksgiving recap. We do have a weekend preview, not really a weekend, but a next week preview. NASCAR is returning to the Music City for the 30th to the December 2nd for champion. Wow, I am just butchering this. NASCAR's going back to Nashville for championship week. There's going to be tons of events going on, tons of cool stuff. I can't wait. Burnouts on Broadway, the award banquets. It all goes on through the 30th through the 2nd. We'll get to see the televised version December 4th, starting at 6 p.m. on NBCSN. That's going to be the Burnouts on Boulevard. And then they're going to go right into the awards banquet. Make sure you vote for your favorite driver for most popular driver. I wonder, this is a little pickle lane, little audible at the end of the show. Chase Elliott. You kind of expect him to win most popular driver. Do you think Kyle Larson dethrones him this year?
No.
Yes. Wow.
Okay. All right. I'm going to stay out of it this one. We'll see what happens in 2 weeks when we are back for the Bump and Run podcast. It's the off season. We're not going anywhere, but we are taking a week off in between every episode. So we will not talk to you next Monday. We will talk to you Monday, December 6th, and we'll talk all about Boulevard, the Burnouts on Broadway and the Boulevard and the most popular driver when we return on the Bumper Run podcast. For Matt, the Stat Man Reilly, for Eric, Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
Bump and dump and run.